This episode of the Miami Tech Pod is sponsored by Ramrack Recruiting. Ramrack specializes in working with startups and small, fast-growing companies. A genuine people-oriented approach, honesty and trust, and they operate with a real, friendly, approachable culture. They already have, great impact for their clients and candidates as they partnered with recruiting for executive, tech, product, HR, sales, and marketing positions. Reach out at ramrack.com, spelled RAMRAK.com. They're keen to hear from you and see what value they can provide to your startup here in Miami. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the Miami Tech Pod. We have a special episode today. We made it to our first 10 episodes, and of course, we're joined by Will Weinrob, Maria Durchi, and Brian Breslin. And this week, we have a very special guest, Adam Garfield, the co-founder and CEO of SpeedETab, is with us. SpeedETab is a Miami-based startup that provides ordering and payment technology to the catering and restaurant industry. And, Adam has some really huge news that he wants to share with us this week, but I won't steal his thunder. Adam, welcome to the Miami Tech Pod. And I got to say, go Gators.
Go Gators. What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
How are you doing? I feel like you've had quite a bit of change in your life. Do you want to share kind of, before you jump into it, a little bit about SpeedETab, what you've built, your journey with the company?
Yeah, definitely. So for people that aren't familiar, SpeedETab is a Miami-based startup. I'm actually born and raised in Miami, one of the few, gringos to be born and raised here. Oh, everyone on this podcast born and raised here? Oh, fantastic.
305 till I die. Except for Maria, who has a 786 phone number.
Adam, that's the point of the Miami Tech Pod, man. Come on.
Well, there's lots of Miami Tech folks that are born and raised Miami.
Fair point.
All right. But so SpeedETab was started here back in 2013, actually. And we really focus on helping restaurants have their own direct ordering channels on the web and on their own apps to connect with their customers. So if you think about large brands, like in coffee, that might be Starbucks. In fast food, that might be McDonald's. You might know, Panera or Taco Bell, and you might use their apps and online ordering. And they're terrific. They help drive orders, especially during COVID and now into the later stages of COVID more than ever before. And that's great for those brands that are multi-billion-dollar enterprises. But the rest of the restaurant industry also needs that kind of experience for their customers. And that's where SpeedETab helps come in, right? We democratize that kind of technology for the rest of the market. So if you're a local coffee shop, call it Panther Coffee, we build and power the Panther app and Panther's online ordering so that you can order ahead and skip the line at any of their locations. We do the same thing for, fast casual restaurants, event spaces. We've done the Adrian Arsh Center, so that you can pre-order your concessions during intermission or before the show. And we do that, today for over 2,500 locations across the country, brands big and small, locally, whether that's Rice Kitchen or Panther Coffee. Nationwide, larger brands like Barnes & Noble cafes with Starbucks. We do Lululemon's food and beverage concepts. So really evolved over the last, 7 years here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like you've had quite a week. Do you want to, do we need a drum roll? Do we need some music? Do you want to share some our listeners about what's going on in the exciting world of SpeedETab these days?
Can I get a drum roll? I'm not very good at drum rolls, but I know Will might be a pro. SpeedETab has been acquired. We've been acquired by Wix. The world's largest website development platform.
No biggie. Just the world's largest website development platform.
Yeah, NBD.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Super excited. My co-founder, Ed Gilmore, and I, super excited. A lot of the team is down here as well. Everyone at SpeedETab really happy about it. And more than anything, it really proves another great win in Miami Tech, but also, excited for the next chapter of SpeedETab. All of us are joining Wix And the point there is really to help create a monster within restaurant tech. So now you have this deep vertical integration for restaurants where the sole source for all their tech needs can be Wix. So that's a company that can help them build their website right out of the box, whether that's done through a builder or whether that's done through an agency that's making something a little more custom for them. And then they can have their online ordering and app fully integrated with their website, as well as integrated with their restaurant systems as well. So super excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, bro, I'm so proud of you, bro. I mean, we've started around the same time. When I was getting started with my company, you were getting started with your company, and I have so much respect for you and what you've built over the years. Just know how hard it was every step of the way to get to where you are today. And curious, I mean, you've seen this local community transform before your very eyes. I mean, when you started out building SpeedETab, I mean, we heard the stories that we'll never make it in Miami, got to go out to the Valley to raise funding, got to go to New York to raise funding. You stuck it out here. I'm curious to get your perspective as a Miami guy that stuck it out here in the city from then till now, how things have evolved, and just your take on all the progress we've made so far.
Boy, those lunches at Koyo Taco where I'd pick your brain because you were always, Live Ninja was always one round or one step ahead of SpeedETab at that time. So I was like, how did you do XYZ? And what happens when you're afraid you can't do these things?
Yeah, little did you know we didn't have our shit together either. So,
there was a quote on startups. I forget who said it, but it was saying that it's really like riding a bicycle, and even at the pro level, riding the bike, you just go faster. Riding is just as hard. So it's always as hard. You're always getting customer complaints. You're always trying to hold the airplane together while trying to upgrade it and fix it. So that's I feel like startup world for everyone. But yeah, as someone whose first startup it was, I had no idea that you felt that way also. Miami tech scene is incredible. I mean, today, I think in the last 3 months, I've met more people in tech and that are like-minded and building incredible things and investing in incredible things than I had in the past, 6 years, 7 years. And so I think versus different moments in the past where Miami had brief spotlights of the up and coming new tech center, I think those were largely driven by big capital investments and the magic leaps of the world that kind of catapulted Miami into or South Florida into a hub of venture capital and entrepreneurial ecosystem. But today, it really has legs. I was telling someone that a startup ecosystem is just like a B2b market. It's a chicken and the egg, right? So entrepreneurs want to move to a city that has venture capital. Venture capital wants to be in a place that has great entrepreneurs. You have talent as a piece of that also. So maybe it's like a triangle. But and the key to cracking a B2B market, in my opinion, and what SpeedETab did, was we went after the top tier of one of the sides, right? So in our case, it's okay, we want traction in this market. Well, if we go after Panther Coffee or Koyo Taco, the most popular spots in town, people are really going to need to use our technology because they want to buy at Panther and Koyo Taco, right? And so with the Miami tech movement, it is, okay, if we can get some of the top angels or some of the top VCs or some of the top businesses in town to be here, that's going to attract great entrepreneurs, and vice versa. If you're going to have some of the top entrepreneurs in town, it's going to attract great VCs. And so luckily we're having this convergence of both of those sides. You have great angels that are moving here, you have great companies that are moving here, but you also have strong founders that are here and company growth that's here. So I think it's really exciting. Definitely some things to watch in terms of Miami is already a difficult place to afford for many. So how do we help balance some of the newcomers to Miami and what's happening in the real estate market, for instance, keep Miami affordable for those that don't have all of the high paying jobs that are opening up. But very exciting time.
So Adam, if you could give one piece of advice to all these people who are new to town, like what would it be? Like, and it could be a broad ranging, other than download SpeedETab and shop at SpeedETab restaurants. Other than that, because that was obvious. So what would what would you tell them?
So these are not startup people, but people that are new to Miami.
They
Is that
could
what
be
it
new,
is?
they could be startup people. They could like all these people who are in the WhatsApp group with us or whatever, right? You know, like how can we help them reduce culture shock, right? Like what's
Yeah.
something that you don't think they would even understand coming from outside of Miami? Because Miami is such a unique and weird in its own way place.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to be siloed. And whether that's in a company and in a product, or whether that's in a city and an ecosystem, it's very easy to become siloed and to be within an echo chamber, right? And so I'd really encourage people to get outside of, whether that's Miami Beach, obviously people that are just moving here or come here just to visit, think Miami is South Beach, and makes me think of was it Trick Daddy or Uncle Luke? Who was it that said Miami isn't South Beach? Miami is Overtown. It's Liberty City. It's Hialeah. It's Perrine. It's all these Miami Lakes. It's really all these other parts of Miami that don't get the shine that Miami Beach does, or that nowadays Wynwood does. It's great. People are familiar with Miami and they're familiar with Wynwood. And rightfully so. There's a lot going on in those neighborhoods, but Miami does have a rich culture to it and has a rich history to it. And I think folks that are moving to the town really need to understand and visit those parts of the city that aren't just Wynwood and Miami Beach, so that they can understand a bigger picture than just specific community of tech and the specific communities of Miami Beach and Wynwood.
So Adam, I'm sure like most founders, you look for investment, and I'm sure some investors tried to get you to move out of Miami. What kept you here? And, looking back, how has that affected the trajectory of your startup?
Yeah, great question. I remember going to San Francisco and talking to VCs there. And I would say that we were located in Miami, and they would just laugh, right? Like, Miami, what are you doing there? Like I had no idea what I was doing being in Miami, which maybe they had a point, because that was like a checkbox I just didn't seem to check for them. But in my opinion, it was great being a big fish in a little pond. I mean, the tech community, you can say in any city, is small, and but Miami tech community, especially in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, is a great smaller ecosystem to be a part of, where I felt like going to the Valley, or even being in Boston, New York, you would feel lost a little bit in terms of just the number of people to meet and the number of places to go. And so obviously, being a Miami native, I had family and friends here as well. Family is the biggest driver for me always. My parents are here. My grandparents are here. I'm actually going to see them all tonight for a great, exciting dinner. But it's really about, can I have an impact as a big fish in a little pond being in Miami? And that was more important to me than being a little fish in a big pond in the Valley. And then 2 for me was being born and raised here, wanted to be around my friends and family. 3 was affordable, price of living. I lived in Boston for 5 years. I lived next to the Old North Church, which is where Paul Revere hung the lanterns, one if by land, 2 if by sea. I always used to joke that Paul Revere must have lived in my apartment, because that's how old it felt. It had nothing in it. It was horrible. And for the same, even less amount of rent in Miami, you can get a brand new place with a great view and great amenities. So those are kind of the 3 factors that played into that.
So I'd love to get your sense of this, because we invite a lot of on the podcast, and they talk about really what their company's up to. They talk about a ton of like the really neat things that everyone should be knowing about this company, right? Where they're headed, everything they've built. But I'd love to get your sense, because as we said earlier, there are roller coasters, there's ups and downs, and from building the company to acquisition and that exit that you guys just witnessed. What were some of the crazy moments? What were some of the things that broke, the oh shit moments, where you really felt like this thing could really fall apart? And like, how'd you guys get out of and climb out of those holes, right? Obviously, you saw success at the end of it, but I'd love to get your insights on those experiences as well.
Yeah. So the biggest failure moments, or the biggest oh no moments of SpeedETab. There's been a lot. I think one of the first big ones and major learnings was on raising capital. I feel like no one ever teaches you to walk into a room and ask for lots of money. At least, through school, through other careers, it's never something that I think any first-time founder is really prepared to do, is to go in and ask for lots of money. And SpeedETab ended up raising money from some of our investors actually in the early days, which had a venture fund. And I felt like having users that were excited about the product but also had a fund was a great way to raise money, right? However, it's really important, I learned, to have investors that have invested in other early stage funds before, because late stage investors and early stage investors face different company profiles at that time. And so these investors had invested later on in Snapchat, Uber type companies, which at late series already were very successful, had a very specific trajectory that they were going after. And the moment that SpeedETab hit bumps in the road early on, these investors were not very supportive. And that led to a lot of friction between the team and the investors. And so it was a big learning experience in terms of making sure that we raise funds from investors that have done this before and been there before, because every startup is bound to have peaks and valleys. And so for us, it was very trying at those moments to deal with not just the business, but investors as well. So that was kind of like the first big shock as a founder, co-founder, which was friction with investors.
Was it that they weren't like ride or die, or were their expectations and incentives misaligned? Like what was it?
Yeah, it wasn't that they wanted to jump ship, but they wanted to change terms. They wanted to kind of pull some tricks that we felt weren't very fair and
shady
didn't make us very happy. So that was a time of friction for us, but definitely a learning lesson.
We may have investor / VC wall of shame in the future on the Miami Tech Pod to call people out when they're doing shady things that are not founder friendly. I don't know. Like I'm not saying we got to name names on this podcast, Adam.
Yeah.
But just if you want to slip some names down the road, it didn't come from you, anonymous tech. Just let us know.
Yeah, I'll help out with the wall decoration for sure. But I think one of the bright sides of Miami in 2021 is that you do have such a wider base of sophisticated investors and accredited investors when it comes to this stuff. I think Miami always was a town of a lot of capital, but that capital was often allocated into real estate, right? Miami was a booming real estate town, still is a booming real estate town, with not much of that capital going into tech. And I think that's shifted, the slices of that pie have shifted a bit now, which is good to see.
So I remember the first time I heard about Adam was on a TV show 6 years ago on CNBC. It was the West Texas Investors Club with, I don't know, was it Matt McConaughey's brother or something? Did you actually get an investment from them? Or
we did. Yeah. You did? Yeah. I'm trying to think what I'm legally still allowed to say.
Well, I mean, you don't have to say anything about them or whatever. You can... the reason I brought this up was I'm going to make a proposal, since you're the only one with TV experience or TV bona fides amongst all of us. I think we should launch the West Kendall Investor Club spin-off. And deals can be rated in like how many croquetas or pastelitos as a star rating, I mean, look, I think this could be a great idea. This could be your next business after or a spin-off from your new YouTube channel.
What would be the Miami equivalent of saying I'm out? Like, what would be the Miami equivalent?
Nah, bro.
Nah, bro.
Yeah.
And then if you do the deal, you say dale, right?
Yeah. And you could be like, look, that deal's
Or-
in BFE.
yeah.
We can't touch it. It's in BFE.
Just yeah, no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
no.
I'd be like, look, this deal is going to be a mission. You know, we can't fund this. You know, look, there's so much
I
potential. It writes
totally
itself.
support that.
It writes
I,
itself.
I give
Like-
that 4 pit bulls.
There you go. You know, and now that once you finish your contract of working for Wix, and you'll be flush with an undisclosed amount of cash, you could be one of the investors on the show.
But by the way, like I'm waiting for Julia to like bust open the door and be like, Brian, stop trying to get people to like, violate their confidentiality agreements and contracts. Like you do this every episode. You need to stop.
She's probably sitting there outside outside the door, like listening, cringing at all the legal suggestions or illegal things I suggest. So
Julia listens to every episode and then provides feedback to Brian.
yeah.
So, Adam, I have a question. 2 things on every founder's mind is capital and talent. You already kind of covered a bit of the capital. So now to the talent point. What was your experience building your team here? Good, bad, ugly, and what advice do you have to other founders who are trying to build their teams in Miami?
Yeah, great question. I always preface everything by saying I'm not very smart. I'm just somewhat okay at surrounding myself with really smart people. And so talent is the number one important thing, right? So when I left finance, my corporate job to start SpeedETab as a mobile first company, I knew that I needed a technical co-founder. So started there, right? And I was already heading back to Miami because I was quitting my job and I had no money and I had to live with my dad because there was no income at SpeedETab and I wasn't getting paid anything and I was eating broccoli and eggs like every meal and was on the search for my co-founder. Was lucky enough that someone from college actually responded to me and said that they could help, and they brought to that meeting my co-founder Ed, and that was the true start of SpeedETab. Was when the two of us came together. Ed was classically CTO role. He was Purdue computer science. He had led engineering teams at BlackBerry and at Research in Motion, or BlackBerry and Motorola, sorry. And he would lead our product and engineering teams. And so he was in Fort Lauderdale. He had moved here largely because being a Midwestern guy, he really loved the South Florida sunshine, cost of living. And so the two of us started SpeedETab together. We then hired our next, 4 or 5 hires were all in South Florida. And I think at any startup probably that's under 15, 20 people, those are typically almost all referrals. And it wasn't our case, right? It was using your network to say, hey, here's what we need. Do you know anyone? And it was friends and friends of friends. And the biggest thing is, can you, communicate a vision clear enough that people want to come work at a startup versus a well-respected larger company that offers great benefits and a great salary? And 2 is, can you build something cool that they want to work on? I mean, more than anything, people want to build cool stuff. And so SpeedETab was in an interesting position because we had end users that would use this product daily, right? One of the best parts of SpeedETab, my favorite day to today, is sitting at like a Panther coffee and watching people use this technology that we had built that we didn't know.
Right, it wasn't
Like
like
when
it wasn't like your cousin that you said, please use my app. It was just a random person.
Exactly. When it finally wasn't like, I don't actually know this person.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, these people I have no idea who they are. They have no idea who we are, but they find this useful. And I remember sitting there watching a lady stroll in with her stroller and having her cell phone under her ear doing the push and just walking into Panther, grabbing her coffee and walking out the door. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And that's how we can help impact people's day-to-day lives. And as an engineer or as an account manager or as a QA person or as someone on support, it's so cool to go out into the real world and see a lot of that in action. And that was a great selling point. And that helped us attract talent here. And we also have talent that's remote. We have folks, across the country that work at SpeedETab. But we do believe that having people in the same room also helps as well. There's nothing kind of like that impromptu brainstorming that happens when you can just kind of like lean back in your chair and look over and chat about something that came to your mind.
What's your current headcount? Like, how big is the team?
There's 15 of us. Well, actually, our current headcount is 5,000. So there's 5,000 wonderful employees at Wix. The US just surpassed 1,000 employees.
Sure.
And they do just have over 200 million end users on the platform.
The good people at Wix asked me to ask you that to see if you're disciplined enough to say no. That's great. So I mean, you guys kept it pretty lean, right? Like, I mean,
the great thing about software is that you can keep, if you build it the right way, you can scale while keeping a small team, right? And so we went from 100 locations to 1,000 locations to 2,500 locations without drastically changing team size. And so that I think people get caught up oftentimes in how big a company is. Like, oh, we have 100 employees, 1,000 employees, X. I think it's more impressive when companies do a lot and they have a small headcount, right? I think in the world of tech startup, how efficient and scalable can you be at 5 people, 10 people, 15 people? And so we were proud that we could power enterprise brands and thousands of locations while having a small headcount.
I totally agree with that. One of my dreams is to run like a 5-person, $10 million a year business where I own 100% of it, or 90%.
Watch out, future Brian employees.
Listen, they'll be paid handsomely. Obviously, it won't be anyone on this pod.
Brian's gonna be like, when he raises money, he's gonna be like, "Yep, I'm trying to raise, $0 because the cap table is the following. And it's just a paper that says me on it."
Hey, when you go to sell, the due diligence process, Brian, will be very straightforward.
That's true.
Before we shift to the next topic, and we want to talk about the next chapter at Wix, SpeedETab at Wix. I know as entrepreneurs, we are always kind of limited by our resources, right? How much money we have, how much technical talent, etc. Now SpeedETab has a new home at Wix. You got amazing resources, an amazing company. Tell us now about the future plans for the SpeedETab product inside of Wix restaurants and where that's heading.
Yeah, we're really focused on building a monster. And I mean that when I say that. And so restaurant tech now is in the forefront like never before, right? Restaurants are moving to digital. They were doing so before COVID. Obviously, during COVID, this was largely the only way for restaurants to survive was via takeout and delivery and ordering through online and app. And we think that momentum is really going to continue over the next months and years, right? So combining SpeedETab with Wix obviously brings us tremendous amount of resources and manpower. And so what that means for restaurants is one home for all their needs, from their website to integrated online ordering. Most restaurants just need something that works. Have you ever walked into a restaurant and they have like 10 tablets in there and there's like a poor person there, there's dinging over here and there's dinging over there and they're scurrying around with, it's mayhem. And so they need systems and products that work together with the systems that they have in place. And so SpeedETab over the years has built a number of point of sale integrations that work with restaurant systems. And so using that together with the beautiful designs of Wix websites and a lot of other exciting stuff down the pipe in terms of how do we bring other third-party orders into those channels. They have a great reservation system in there that we're looking to improve upon as well. So really making this a one-stop shop and making restaurant operators' lives easier. Stop running around to all these tablets, stop having so many different systems, simplify the workflow.
Oh, I love it. I think a good analogy for how this feels in your position right now could be when you have capped resources as a startup entrepreneur, and then you shift into a lot more resources and a lot more just bandwidth and support than a company like Wix. It's kind of like when a batter steps up to bat, they put one of these heavy weights on their baseball bats. They start swinging it around so that when it's their time to step up to the plate, the bat feels like a feather, and they could just like knock the ball out of the park. And I feel like that's kind of how you're now entering Wix. You had this capital constraint, you had talent restraints, all these things that startups typically have. Now I'm really excited to see where SpeedETab takes things with Wix restaurants. And I mean, we're all rooting for you, Adam. We couldn't be more excited. So we can't wait to see where you take it, brother.
I love that analogy. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
For sure.
Awesome. So Adam, stick around, because we're gonna shift here to a pretty wild topic. Last episode we covered the NFT craze. We've seen a lot of startup activity in the space, a ton of investors that are interested. But we have like a hyper local kind of version of a development in the NFT space. I mean, you guys were bringing this up, but Key Biscayne resident sold an NFT for $6 million. Is that right?
Like 6.6.
Yeah, 6.6. Yeah.
6.6.
Yeah.
Wow. So who knows the backstory here? I'd love to unpack this a little bit more, because one, we need to meet this guy for sure. But I don't know. Do any of you like actually know what happened here?
So I think and we can correct this. Well, we won't correct this. But I think what happened was there's this artist named Beeple, and this was one of his or part of his collection that this guy, I think his name is Pablo, who lives in Key Biscayne.
Yeah, pulling it up right now.
And he bought it for 67 grand back in October, maybe. And then it was sold. I think this was one of the first Christie's auctions for NFT art. And he sold it for 6.6 million via the Christie's auction. So it's like on many areas, it's like this is the first time that digital art like this has been sold through a traditional auction house. But it's also beyond that. It's wild that he got what, 100x return or something. I believe
he
like
bought
that.
it for like $50,000 or $60,000, and
yeah. Which probably at the time was seen as like a crazy amount of money to spend on, a screensaver.
Yeah, so here it is, 67,000 in October, and then 6.6 million just 5-6 months later. Absolutely incredible.
So Adam, are you gonna I don't know, maybe use a little bit of exit cash to jump into the NFT market? I mean, is that something that, feel free to make some news on the pod. That's what it's for, man.
Well, I do love NBA Top Shot. Let me tell you.
There we go.
But no, actually, I'm looking to buy my first place. So that's the first move, capital-wise. But NFT is just so hot. I mean, I was reading, maybe it was in this article or another article, that at least on NBA Top Shot, I think something like of the close to $300 million in gross proceeds that have traded on that, like 270 million of that 300 have happened in the last 90 days. It's incredible the amount.
It's the fastest growing marketplace of all time at current trajectories.
I am really interested to see how this kind of spills over to the next Art Basel, right? Because you can actually think that there's going to be a ton of NFTs that like could be created as live experiences at Art Basel that will immediately be transacted. Where I don't know, I could kind of see that being like a interactive experience that drives up the value, because on the front end you're monetizing it. When you capture it, you're monetizing it, and then through its journey, you're monetizing it as well.
Art Basel already had one of the first real world examples of NFT art, which was that ridiculous bananas thing. Because what was sold, it wasn't that rotting banana that was sold for 120 grand. It was the contract to replicate it, and that was sold on the blockchain. So in theory, this is like that was one of the first NFT art pieces here in the 305.
Can we claim that as the birthplace of NFTs?
No, they've been around for a lot longer than that. But I'm sure some of the earliest speculators in this space were here in Miami because we have a ton of like old school crypto people.
Yep.
Like the guy who sold the pizza for whatever it was, or bought the pizza for 10,000 Bitcoin, lives in Coconut Grove in like a $30 million house. So he's not doing too shabby even after that. So, I mean, he could have been living in a $150 million house, but I mean,
Adam, I'm curious to get your take on NFTs. We spent a good chunk of the last episode talking about it, and I'm thrilled again that we're talking about it again because it's a fascinating topic and it's a hot topic. How do you feel about NFTs? I know you're into art. You got some cool art pieces in your apartment. Like when you see this, do you? Yeah, there you go. You got some Miami artists back there.
It's Miami art.
There you go. So so again, you're a tech guy. To you, what at this present moment, can you see your mindset shifting where it doesn't matter if it's physical or digital, as long as you have the ownership rights? Does it mean the same to you? Curious to get your take on this whole trend.
I think there's two different parts to it. Does it matter if it's physical or digital? No. Can I get behind the digital valuation, the valuation of it in general? No. Like whether it's digital or physical, I get both ways, and I understand why having it on the blockchain is so great and all that. But can I get behind a valuation like that? I can't comprehend why that is worth $6.6 million. And you could say, well, there's probably a lot of physical art that I don't understand why it's worth $6.6 million.
Right.
And my personal taste is I probably, that's not up my alley to go spend that kind of money on that kind of asset. And I don't understand the value behind some of that. So I like to stick to things that I really deeply understand. And I don't understand why physical world or digital worlds, some of these valuations exist. And so I stay away from it.
Maria's launching a website that will allow you to buy digital photos and videos of her dogs.
Why do I feel like I'm the butt of all jokes on this podcast?
What's the URL?
NFT dogs. I don't know. we're
I'm pretty sure anyone who knows me would probably think that is true.
I would probably do really well in this current climate, honestly.
All right, I'm looking this up right now. NFTdogs.com.
You're gonna have to buy the URL before this goes live.
It is for sale. Someone thought of this.
Is this her version of CryptoKitties?
Maria?
Yes.
Very cool.
Such a distinct answer.
Great. Adam, thank you so much for joining us on the Miami Tech Pod. We are thrilled to see another kind of homegrown company here make it, have these ambitious plans, have the resources to do it. We really appreciate you kind of sharing your story here, but also I think it's helpful for our listeners, which they're building companies right now. They want to there's always the person that says like, man, I'm kind of like, I've experienced a roller coaster of building this startup. Like, do I keep going with this? Do I keep pushing through and try to make something happen? And I think it's inspiring for a lot of our listeners to, there you go. The t-shirt you're wearing, if you're not watching this on the use, says go one more. And I think that's really helpful as as an inspiration to a lot of founders and operators here in Miami. So thanks for joining the pod, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I live in downtown Miami. Happy to, meet digitally, in person, anything with folks in the startup world, and try and share as much from my failures and learnings as possible.
Cool. And before Adam goes, I want to give a quick plug. Adam's got a brand new YouTube channel that he just launched, vlogging kind of his day-to-day, week-to-week, as he just sold his company and ventures into this new journey with Wix and the Miami tech scene. So Adam, you want to give a quick plug on this new channel and what you're going to be doing there?
If you want a good laugh, also want to see kind of the quirkiness of my life, but also learnings from SpeedETab, growing, scaling, selling a startup. I want to share on there about things that I've learned, but also share about lots of people have just moved to Miami or are thinking of moving to Miami. So I give a little bit of insight of what it's like living here and just my weird life. So Adam Garfield on YouTube, check it out.
Yeah, we'll drop a link to his channel in the description of the podcast.
Actually,
for you guys.
Will, what's the sentence that every YouTube video should end with? I think you have this down.
Oh, it's don't forget to smash that like button, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Yeah.
For the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah. Don't forget to smash that like button, guys. It really helps the channel.
Exactly.
So.
And I have to put this very moment on the vlog itself coming soon. So
that's what's up. What's up, everybody? Yo, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Adam's doing big things. You're not going to want to miss this next episode. By the way, this is the Miami Tech Pod. You got to check us out also. So.
I think we may have just broken the internet. Like I don't this is Inception.
This is the Inception. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. This was episode 10 of the Miami Pod. As always, I mean, we just heard it. Like and subscribe to the show. Follow us on Twitter at Miami Tech Pod, and we'll be back here in a week for episode 11. Thanks, everyone.